My name is Brother Raúl Espinoza. I am 20 years old and I am from California. The first time I felt the call was when I was 12 years old. But when I was 12 years old, I had no desire to become a priest. So I said, if I just brush off this idea, then I don't have to worry about it. Because I just wanted to have a family, have kids, and just be a dad. So I brushed it off, and I thought I had done well. But then 3 years later, when I was 15 years old, I was outside of my parish, and it was during the Mass. And I remember that the priest was consecrating the host. And for some reason, this time it was different from all the other times. So you can kind of imagine myself. I'm outside by myself, my family isn't there, and I'm kneeling down for the consecration. And the priest is holding the host in his hands. I can't see him because I'm outside. And he lifts it up and he says the words of consecration. And in this moment, my heart just started beating very hard. And I didn't know what was going on. And then he continues the Mass and he starts with the consecration of the wine. And the same thing, my heart just started beating really hard. And then I had this strong smell of wine. And my natural reaction was to look around and see if anyone was drinking wine outside. Obviously no one was drinking wine. But that moment was very special because I didn't hear God's voice, but I knew that God was calling me to something special. And the first thing that popped into my mind was the priesthood. So I decided to hold this to myself and speak to the priest that celebrated the Mass. And I spoke to this priest who was not a legionary, but he was a religious. And he guided me in this discernment. The first time I met the Legion of Christ was in a very different way. I met the Legion through YouTube. I was 17 years old. I was studying for my classes in high school. And naturally, I was watching YouTube at the same time. So as I was studying and watching YouTube, my dad comes up to me and says, "Hey, you should listen to this priest give a talk." And I said, "Okay, sure." So I started listening to this priest, and there was 3 things that really impacted me. He was giving a conference about Mary, and his love for Mary was amazing because it was a real relationship. His passion for souls, for his zeal. And the third thing was his joy. And I was really impacted by that. And then I saw another priest who was also giving a talk on YouTube, but to married couples. And the same thing impacted me. His joy, his profoundness, and he told a lot of jokes. So I really liked that. And I saw these 2 priests and I said, if I become a priest, I want to be like one of these 2. So I searched them up on Google, and I found that they were both Legionaries of Christ. And I didn't know who the Legion was. So in this time, I was already discerning. So I decided to go on the website and find the vocational director. So I got in contact with Father John Curran. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna send this priest an email, and he's gonna get back to me in a week, in a month, or something. I emailed him that night, and the next morning he sent me an email and he wanted to talk. So I talked to him the very next day, and he said that he was going to send a priest to my house. And he sent Father Lorenzo Gomez, who works in California in Radio Guadalupe. And when he came to my house, he was only there for 30 minutes, but he was able to convince my parents and myself that I should come to TYC the next year for Holy Week. So those 2 were miracles that I would have never thought could have happened, convincing my parents and convincing me to go to Cheshire, to a place I've never been before. So I came to Cheshire, and I remember the first thing I did when I arrived through the doors was to make a visit to the chapel. And I didn't know what a visit was. I didn't know how to make a visit. But Father Lorenzo told me, let's make a visit. So I walked into the chapel, I knelt down, and when I knelt down, I knew in that moment that this was a place for me, that this was my home. Obviously, I didn't tell Father Lorenzo or any priest, because then they would have tried to convince me to join, and I wanted to see what my experience would be. So I stayed for TYC. I was here for about 2 weeks, and my experience was great. I was able to see the charity of the brothers, and it really convinced me that this was where God was calling me to join.